Figures just released by the State Police Department show car thefts fell by 6% last year. That's the lowest rate in more than 5 years. The best result was recorded in Newcastle, where thefts dropped by a staggering 1/3 to just over 1,000 reports. The best Sydney result was a 16% drop in the western suburbs. Newcastle police say their figures are being studied, but already there are clear reasons for the local result.
Of course, there's been a greater public awareness of the problem involving car theft, and also the fact that a number of black areas within the district have been targeted by police. There's been a greater police presence, and as such we feel there's been a reduction in the vehicle theft from those areas. Backyard operators also have been policed more regularly and inspected, and there's public awareness through taxis and CB radios, the broadcasting of stolen vehicles. Other people assist us with looking out for those cars, and it's the proactive policing, more police out there looking at the vehicles as well.
The results are good news for all car owners in the Hunter, having already resulted in direct benefits in terms of car insurance. Both the NRMA and the GIO say they've adjusted insurance costs accordingly.
The Maritime Services Board Hunter Port Authority says Sydney has suffered delays for at least 12 months, and this latest blow may encourage importers and exporters to look to Newcastle as an alternative.
We would hope that there will be some spin-off cargo from Sydney Port Botany to Newcastle.
The MSB admits Newcastle does have limitations in handling container shipping. However, they are looking to improve that. In the next 3 weeks, expressions of interest will be called to develop number 1 Eastern berth at Carrington to develop container handling facilities, a move the MSB hopes will open new doors to business. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
There remains, however, that very large group of age in a 3-step process of helping homeless of their houses available to homeless teenagers. One such house has just been established.
It often means complete isolation, but we get a lot of clues on what the problems are.
Thank you.
The pitch at the number 2 sports ground will need a few matches before it settles down, and today in the city and suburban match between Sunnyside and Shortland Electricity there was a fair bit of variable bounce. Shortland made 126 in their innings and immediately had Sunnyside on the ropes. The bowlers were having it all their own way, with one keeping low and almost trapping the batsman LBW, while the next one would whistle around your ears. Occasionally the Sunnyside batsmen were able to get on top, but Shortland finally broke through. A superb cover drive that rattled the pickets brought a cheer from the 7 spectators in the grandstand, but the very next delivery it was all over as the skied hook shot fell gently for the keeper and Sunnyside were in a little trouble. At Kahibah Oval, the defending premiers Charlestown and Southern Lakes opened the NIB District Cricket Competition, and the boys from the Lakes region got away to a dreadful start. At one stage early in the match, they were 4 for 6, and then they steadied with Jason Holt and Bob Holland combining to rebuild the innings. Holt played brilliant cricket to notch a fine 74, sweeping well, and he was also very powerful in front of the wicket. And there was plenty to keep the spectators at Kahibah amused if the cricket was a little boring at times. There was the regulation dog performing his tricks chasing the ball, or the on-field change of knee guard from one leg to the other. Back to the cricket, and Holt was finally dismissed when Tony Bristow picked up a magnificent caught and bowled. Holland continued to hammer the Charlestown bowling attack and went on to compile a fine 36 in Southern Lakes' total of 168. A short time before stumps, Charlestown were 1 for 30 in reply.
Wildlife illustration is a specialised art form requiring great patience and an eye for detail. Each year, a small number of artists who've shown they have those qualities are accepted into the specialised strand of the Graduate Diploma in Art course. Although the students are working towards an end-of-year mark and exhibition, the proudest moment for one comes at this time each year with the announcement of the winner of the National Parks and Wildlife Service Scholarship. State Independent Member for Newcastle, George Keegan, was given the task of announcing the winner from 5 finalists.
The winner of the 1989 Wildlife Illustration Scholarship is Lyndall Keller.
Lyndall Keller has taught art in a number of high schools and managed an art gallery in recent years. This year she decided to plunge headfirst into illustration, her detailed treatment of the subject matter winning the judges over, but it was, she says, a labour of love.
It was just a subject that I've always liked, and the Waratahs were out at the time that I did it, and the Honeyeaters as well. So I suppose just going out and researching from life was the inspiration.
Bushfire control officers wanting to pinpoint the seat of the fire early called in the Westpac rescue helicopter from Newcastle. It's believed the fire started at the rear of houses at Big Jim's Point and may have been deliberately lit. Fire control officer Bill MacArthur says he hasn't ruled out incendiary bombing to bring the fire into accessible country.
We'll be aerial bombing for about probably 2 hours. If we don't do any good than that, we might have to aerially ignite the area. It may come out as far as the freeway, we're not sure yet. It's pretty hot, it's spotting up to about a quarter of a kilometre, and we've got 2 fires about half a kilometre apart.
The Westpac chopper carried out border bombing this afternoon in an effort to slow the fire's progress.
Held at the Waratah course, which was in super condition, Muri golfer Julie Swanson was the golfer that applied most pressure in the morning 18 holes. Betty Barclay from Hillsborough Charlestown also was playing well and was to finish high up in the placings. Swanson shot a 79 in the morning and followed that with an 85 to finish in second position. But the former state representative and reserve for this year's New South Wales team, Gail Gannon, outshone her rivals to win comfortably. After shooting a 77 in the morning, Gannon maintained her form to make 78 in the final 18 holes and repeat her performance of last year.
Slocky, seen here in the number 2 jumper, scored 12 tries for Waratah in the Newcastle competition this season, including this impressive one against Lakes. Although he still has a term to go with the Cheetahs, discussions are underway to have him released to play for the Knights over the next 2 years.
The sorry state of New South Wales' public railway system has been chronicled many times. A debt of $1.25 billion, losing $300 million a day. New Zealand troubleshooter Ross Sayers was handed the job of resurrecting the corpse a year ago. In 5 years, he plans to cut staff numbers by 50%. However, the SRA boss says the railways have been neglected for decades and it will be years before the system can be turned around.
There is no miracle cure for state rail.
Speaking to the Newcastle Businessmen's Club today, Mr Sayers said government policy not to increase ticket prices meant the SRA may never be able to pay its way except in the freight area.
By standardising on our XPT equipment, we can bring that operation to a break-even within the next 3 years. But frankly, we would be struggling to make a commercial profit.
That emphasis on freight, however, will soften the impact of the cuts on the Hunter. Local coal companies are big railway users, and Ross Sayers says that guarantees fewer job losses here.
That Newcastle will always be a big part of state rail's future, purely driven by the needs of this massive export coal trade that we carry.
This is the second time Mr Sayers has visited Newcastle in only a few months, and that too is part of the master plan. The State Rail Authority has often been criticised as being a faceless bureaucracy. Ross Sayers has made changing that image a priority. At every station you'll now find the smiling face of the line manager and a complaints phone number. Needless to say, there have been quite a few callers.
The Special Casualty Access Team, SCAT, has 3 members stationed on the Central Coast on 24-hour call every day of the year. Members of the team are all paramedics and are trained to give advanced pre-hospital care at the scene of an accident. Over the last 3 years, the ambulance service has noticed the increase in outdoor adventure sports that often see people injured through abseiling, cliff climbing or bushwalking. In many cases, the patients are in inaccessible areas, and the first ambulance care to them is vital. The SCAT officers have spent more than 500 hours training in abseiling from cliffs, caves or even from helicopters into dense bushland. However, their services have been used in the city, treating people who have fallen into lift wells or storage silos. Often the teams work in threes, one officer carrying a backpack fully equipped with drugs, bandages and oxygen. Another carries a portable stretcher and the third will control safety and extra rope. The officers are supplied with a Nissan 4-wheel drive, capable of carrying a large amount of support gear and providing communication links. The officers can be transported to any emergency within hours, either by vehicle, fixed or rotary wing aircraft. At this stage, no SCAT officers are stationed in the Hunter region, but it's hoped by early next year the first officers will be in place in Newcastle.
In front of a large gathering at the QE2 nightclub, Craig released his book with the help of his boyhood hero, Newcastle's legendary soccer player Reg Date. It's the true account of how he headed for the mother country to crack the big time and fulfil a dream. After numerous league medals, FA Cup medals, European Cup winners' medals, you could say that the boy from down under made it in the toughest league in the world, English football's First Division. But with all the success was hours of self-dedication, much heartache and at times despair. At a relatively young age, Craig has turned his back on the glamour and glitz to return home to Lake Macquarie. And there was only one place that the book was going to be launched.
You know, there was a couple of suggestions from the publishers that it'd be Sydney this and Sydney that and Melbourne here. I said, no way, mate. No, I'm the way I am, which is what the book's about, my life story. And I'm that way because of the way I grew up. And I grew up in Newcastle. I'm very proud of that. So to me, there was only one place, and that was Newcastle, and I'm glad I did.
For co-author Neil Jamieson, who has been a lifetime friend of Craig's, it was a little difficult at times to keep the star on the same track while writing the book.
Well, we were supposed to work to a chapter plan, but we didn't always do that. And yes, we did run off at tangents, and we had to discipline ourselves to pull the project back on course. But it's like any difficult and lengthy process. I could liken it to swimming Lake Macquarie at night. You can't see where you're left, and sometimes you don't know where you're going.
One person who is delighted with the book is Craig's wife, Jenny.
Like, I've been there all through it, but to actually read what he's achieved and how he's felt through it and everything that has come off, and actually playing for Liverpool, I think to see it in writing makes it a reality.
Walk Alone is not like a lot of other sporting books. It doesn't tip the bucket on anyone. It's a true story of the struggle of Craig Johnston with an underlying message for our youth.
The theme is that if you're young and you have dreams, you can make them dreams come true with dedication and commitment, and whatever you want to do in life, if you really go for it and strive for it, you'll make it. And the story of my life is that I wasn't even the best player in my Lake Macquarie team. There was two better than me, and that speaks for itself, and I went on and played for Liverpool. So that's the theme, that's the message.
John Tapp with a wrap on the big meeting in Melbourne tomorrow, and now we better let you know Gary Harley's selections for the weekend. In the Caulfield Guineas, Gary feels that Courtsa was unlucky in her last appearance, and she has a much more favourable barrier draw tomorrow. Zabeel is her main danger, with Stylish Century thrown in for third, but don't be surprised if Show County is right up there at the end. For the daily double at Caulfield, Glenview is preferred in the first leg, and Apollo Run has been tipped by Gary to win the second leg, which is race 8. The consistent 4-year-old Record Dash has bright prospects in tomorrow's Rosehill Welter handicap. Record Dash has won 2 of his last 3 starts and led throughout to score impressively at Randwick on September the 30th. Whiskey George and My Red Deer should fill the placings in the Rosehill trifecta, while for the daily double you should try Record Dash in the first leg, race 6, and Mint Machine in the second leg, race 7. Racing's at Broadmeadow tomorrow, and it's a pair of ones for the daily double. Supperman is selected to win the first leg, and Bell Atalante should win the second leg. And for your trifecta, 1, 3 and 7, Supperman to beat Kiwi Kong and Spiritual Healer. Trotting at Maitland tomorrow night, and Moreville McGee along with Rocket Jason are the big fellow selections for the DD, while for the trifecta at Maitland, which is on race 4, try 1, 2 and 6, Rocket Jason to win from Shaman Song and Dicey Dealer. "19-year-old Russell Harton from Muswellbrook was fishing from the Barbara Bee 18 miles off Seal Rocks. At 8:30 last night, he hooked what he thought was a large tiger shark. 3 hours, 15 minutes later, Russell, skipper George Bessoff and the 5 other fishermen on the boat were delighted to find that they had hooked a rare broadbill swordfish and that he was a good weight. Using squid for bait on a 24-kilogram line, it was a hard job to land the soft-mouthed fish, but it was worth the tussle.
This is my first billfish, so it's really good. I haven't caught a fish of this type ever before, and not many other people have either. Not in Australia anyway.
Club Marine of Port Stephens had put up $50,000 for anyone who landed a weighable broadbill, probably thinking their money was safe. 7 crewmen will each receive $7,000 and a cast will be made to present to the Game Fishing Club. But the catch itself is very significant for the area.
Everyone spends a lot of time and a lot of effort to try and catch these, and a lot of it has failed. But we in Port Stephens have managed to catch one. So we will bring the boats here, and the tourist potential of this one fish will be great.
"30 catamarans lined up at Rathmines for the start of the 70-kilometre Poolbar Island Classic, and a few of the sailors were a little apprehensive at the stiff breeze. And an average speed of 21 kilometres an hour indicated the strength of the wind. Warren Eckert, sailing a 14-foot Hobie Turbo, took line honours in the small catamaran class, and Chris Russell grabbed the same prize for the larger Cat Brigade. Handicap honours went to Mick Butler in the Hobie class and Brett White in the larger category. Chris Russell also took the handicap honours in the 5.8 NACRA class. Around 300 runners from all over the Hunter Valley joined forces today to help raise money for the crippling and fatal disease, cystic fibrosis. The run commenced in Shoal Bay and finished at the Harbour Foreshore in Newcastle, with fundraisers covering around 5 kilometres each. The Wadigan Warriors and the Warramai Warriors ran in relays to cover the full distance of 65 k's, and there was even an appearance by a Batman and also a newshound. Newcastle Knights player Gary Worth joined many of his teammates to run the final leg, and over $20,000 is expected to be raised.